The ultimatum. The void between stars was never truly silent. Captain Elena Torres knew this better than most as she stood on the bridge of the TSS Defiance, humanity's most advanced warship. The gentle hum of the quantum drives, the soft peeps of sensor arrays, and the quiet breathing of her crew created a symphony that had become more familiar to her than Earth's oceans. Status report, Elena commanded, her voice calm despite the gravity of their mission. Lieutenant Commander Jackson looked up from his console. We've crossed into Craxian space, Captain. Stealth systems operating at optimal capacity. They don't know we're here. Yet, Elena added, her dark eyes fixed on the view screen. The Craxian homeworld glowed a pale green in the distance, surrounded by a defensive net of battleships and automated weapons platforms. They will soon enough. The Defiance was humanity's finest creation, a vessel that embodied everything humans had achieved since taking to the stars. Sleek, powerful, and incorporating technology that even their allies had difficulty understanding. But Elena hadn't brought it here to showcase human engineering. She'd come with purpose, with determination, with rage carefully contained behind a commander's discipline. 3 months ago, the Craxian Empire had crossed a line. A human colony on Proxima Centauri IV. Peaceful scientists and their families had vanished overnight. Official channels claimed ignorance. The Galactic Council expressed concern but took no action. Only a single distress signal, cut short but undeniably pointing to Craxian involvement, gave humanity the lead they needed. Elena had been tasked with a simple mission: bring our people home. Captain, Communications Officer Rice called out, "We're being hailed." Automated warning beacon from the Craxian Defense Network. "Ignore it," Elena replied. "Continue on course for the capital orbital station." The bridge fell silent as the massive ship pushed forward. Elite officers who had trained their whole lives for missions like this one executed their duties with precision. They all knew what was at stake, not just the lives of the missing colonists, but humanity's standing in the galaxy. For too long, other species had viewed humans as newcomers, lucky technologists who had stumbled upon advanced propulsion just decades ago. They were tolerated, sometimes even respected, but never feared, never taken seriously as a power. The Craxians were about to learn differently. "We're being targeted," Tactical Officer Chen announced calmly. "Multiple Craxian cruisers moving to intercept. Energy signatures indicate weapons charging." Elena nodded. "Maintain course. No evasive maneuvers." "Captain," Chen questioned, a rare breach of protocol that spoke to the unusual nature of their approach. "They won't fire, Lieutenant," Elena said with certainty. "Not when they realize what we are." The Defiance continued its deliberate course, slicing through space toward the heart of the Craxian Defense Network. 3 massive battlecruisers moved to form a blockade, their angular hulls bristling with weapons. "We're being hailed again," Rise announced. "This time it's direct from Craxian High Command." Elena straightened her uniform jacket. On screen, the view screen flickered, revealing the stern face of a Craxian military commander. 4 eyes blinked independently across a ridge of bone that framed a face resembling a cross between a reptile and an insect. Admiral Vorketh's chitinous mandibles clicked in agitation. "Unidentified vessel, you have entered sovereign Craxian space," the Admiral's translator conveyed. "Identify yourself immediately or face immediate destruction." Elena stepped forward, her posture relaxed but commanding. "This is Captain Elena Torres of the Terran spaceship Defiance, and you already know why we're here." The Craxian's multiple eyes widened, the equivalent of a human gasped. A human warship, this far into Imperial territory. Impossible. "Evidently not," Elena replied coolly. "You have something that belongs to us, Admiral. 147 human colonists from Proxima Centauri IV. We want them back." The Admiral's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "I don't know what you're talking about. This incursion is a violation of the Galactic Treaty. Your presence here is an act of war." "Interesting choice of words, Admiral," Elena said, because abducting peaceful colonists was certainly an act of war from our perspective. Behind her, the bridge crew worked silently, their hands moving over holographic controls as they monitored the growing number of Craxian vessels surrounding them. 20 ships now, some larger than the Defiance, all with weapons aimed directly at them. You have no proof of these wild accusations, Vorketh hissed, and you have no authority here. One small ship against the might of the Craxian Empire. Your arrogance will be your undoing. Elena smiled, not the warm expression humans shared among friends, but the cold, predatory smile of an apex hunter. Let me be clear, Admiral. We know the colonists are being held at your research facility on Craxia II. We know they're being subjected to experiments to understand how humans adapted so quickly to interstellar travel. And we know your scientists are particularly interested in our neural interfaces. The Admiral's reaction, a subtle shift in posture, a momentary silence, confirmed everything. You have 1 hour to release all human prisoners and return them to my ship, unharmed, Elena continued. Failure to do so will result in consequences your empire is not prepared to face. Vorketh laughed, the sound harsh and clicking through the translator. You threaten us with one ship. Perhaps humans are more delusional than we realized. Elena's expression didn't change. 1 hour, Admiral. And I should mention, the Defiance isn't alone. She nodded to Reyes, who terminated the communication. They're scrambling additional ships, Chen reported immediately. Sensor readings indicate they're activating planetary defense systems as well. As expected, Elena replied. Deploy sensor buoys. I want full coverage of their fleet movements. Captain, Jackson interjected, the Craxians outnumber us at least 30 to 1, even counting our support vessels. If they decide to attack. They won't, Elena interrupted. Not after we show them what we're capable of. The Craxians, like most of the galaxy, have underestimated humanity from the beginning. They see our diplomatic overtures as weakness, our technological advancements as luck. She walked to the tactical display, where a holographic representation of the Craxian fleet glowed in red contrast to the single blue dot representing the Defiance. What they don't understand is that humans have been preparing for this moment since we first looked up at the stars. We've been fighting wars against ourselves for millennia. We know conflict like they know breathing. In the silence that followed, the crew exchanged glances. They knew their captain's reputation. A strategic genius who had risen through the ranks faster than anyone in the history of the Terran Space Command. If anyone could pull off this mission, it was Elena Torres. 45 minutes remaining in our ultimatum, the ship's AI announced. Elena returned to her command chair. Prepare the demonstration package. If they want to know what one human ship can do, let's show them. On the Craxian flagship, Admiral Vorketh paced the command deck, his exoskeleton clicking against the metallic floor with each agitated step. What do we know about this vessel? He demanded of his intelligence officer. Very little, Admiral, the officer replied, mandibles twitching nervously. The humans have kept their military advancements classified. Our intelligence suggests they possess nothing that could threaten even one of our cruisers, let alone the assembled fleet. Then why? Vorketh hissed. Why come here with one ship and make demands they cannot enforce? It defies logic. Perhaps they are truly desperate, his second-in-command suggested. The loss of their colonists has driven them to irrational action. The Admiral wasn't convinced. In his long military career, he had encountered many species, studied countless battle strategies. This felt wrong. The humans were known for their adaptability, their resourcefulness. They wouldn't launch a suicide mission. Initiate deep scans of the region, he ordered suddenly. Check for any anomalies, any signs of cloaked vessels. Admiral, the weapons officer interrupted. The human ship is doing something. On the main view screen, the Defiance's sleek hull began to transform. Panels shifted, revealing weapon systems that had been completely hidden from scans. A soft blue glow emanated from various points along the hull, intensifying steadily. "What are they?" the Admiral began, but never finished his question. A pulse of energy, invisible, silent, expanded outward from the human vessel. As it passed through the Craxian ships, systems failed. Weapons went offline. Communications died. Artificial gravity fluctuated. And then, just as suddenly, everything returned to normal. "Damage report," Vorketh demanded. "No damage, Admiral." His officer responded, confusion evident. "It appears to have been a demonstration." The communications console chimed. "The human captain is hailing us again." Vorketh hesitated only briefly. On screen, Elena Torres appeared, as calm as before. "That was a targeted electromagnetic pulse, Admiral, specifically calibrated for Craxian technology. As you just experienced, we can disable your ships without destroying them. That was at 10% power." She leaned forward slightly. "The next one won't be a demonstration. 30 minutes remain." The screen went dark. Vorketh turned to his intelligence officer. "Contact the research facility. Tell them to prepare the humans for transfer." "But Admiral, the High Council has invested significant resources in studying the humans. They won't approve." "The High Council isn't here." Vorketh snapped. "Something is wrong. That ship shouldn't be able to do what it just did." And Captain Torres was too confident. He stared at the view screen, where the human vessel waited, surrounded by his fleet, yet somehow appearing not as prey but as a predator. "Contact the research facility," he repeated quietly, "and initiate emergency protocols. I want every available ship mobilized." On the Defiance, Elena received the news with a single nod. "They're moving the colonists, Captain," Intelligence Officer Nakamura reported. "Our infiltration team confirms transport vessels being prepared at the research facility." "They're not surrendering," Elena noted. "They're relocating the prisoners." "Standard operating procedure," Jackson added. "They'll try to hide them somewhere we can't find them, then deny everything." Elena's expression hardened. "Deploy the stealth drones. I want eyes on every transport vessel that leaves that facility." "Yes, Captain," Chen acknowledged, sending the command. Elena stood up, facing her crew. "We knew this would be their response. Now we move to Phase 2. She tapped her neural interface, connecting directly to the ship's tactical systems. "The Craxians believe they understand human capability. They're about to learn how wrong they are." As the Defiance held position, surrounded by the might of the Craxian fleet, invisible drones scattered across the system, tracking, monitoring, preparing. The true nature of humanity's response was about to be revealed, and the galaxy would never view them the same way again. Defiance and resolution. The 20-minute mark of Elena's ultimatum passed in tense silence. On the Defiance's bridge, tactical displays showed Craxian transport vessels departing the research facility on Craxia II, moving in different directions like seeds scattered by wind. "They're splitting up the colonists," Lieutenant Commander Jackson observed. 6 separate transports, each with a military escort. Elena nodded, unsurprised. "Classic shell game. They think if they can disperse the prisoners, we'll be forced to choose which ones to pursue." "Captain," Communications Officer Rise interjected, "Admiral Vorketh is hailing us again." On screen, Elena responded, straightening her posture. The Craxian Admiral appeared, his composure noticeably more rigid than before. The subtle twitching of his mandibles betrayed his agitation. "Captain Torres," he began, "I have consulted with the High Council. There appears to have been a misunderstanding. We did temporarily detain some humans who violated our territory, but this was merely a standard security procedure." Elena's expression remained neutral. "And these detained humans, they are being released now?" "Yes," Vorketh confirmed. "They are being transported to neutral territory as we speak, where your government can arrange their retrieval." "That's not what I demanded, Admiral," Elena replied coldly. "I said they were to be returned to my ship, directly. Vorketh's four eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of frustration. That is impossible given the current circumstances. The prisoners, the detainees, are already en route to the designated locations. Elena glanced at her tactical officer, who gave a subtle nod. All transport vessels were being tracked by their stealth drones. "Very well, Admiral," she said, surprising the Craxian. "We will await confirmation that our people have arrived safely at these neutral locations." Before Vorketh could respond, Elena continued. "However, as a precaution, the Defiance will remain in Craxian space until all colonists are accounted for." "Unacceptable," the Admiral barked. "Your presence here is a violation of—" "Careful, Admiral," Elena interrupted. "Your empire started this when you abducted our people. Consider yourselves fortunate that we're pursuing a diplomatic solution." The communication ended, leaving the bridge in momentary silence. "They're stalling," Intelligence Officer Nakamura noted. "The transports aren't heading toward neutral territory. Two are circling back toward the Craxian military base on the fourth moon. The others are heading for deep space coordinates." Elena's eyes hardened. They never intended to release them. She activated her neural interface again, connecting to the ship's eye. "Activate Phantom Protocol." Throughout the Defiance, hidden systems came online. In the void of space surrounding them, imperceptible distortions rippled outward as dormant technologies awoke. "Phantom Protocol active, Captain," the AI confirmed. "Ghost Fleet standing by." She walked to the tactical display. "What they don't grasp is that peace was a choice. We could have come to the stars as conquerors. Instead, we chose diplomacy. We chose cooperation." With a gesture, she expanded the tactical display, revealing what had been invisible moments before. 7 advanced human vessels, each smaller than the Defiance, but no less lethal, positioned strategically throughout the Craxian system. But we never forgot how to fight. The crew stared at the display in awe. The Ghost Fleet, rumored but never confirmed, a black project so classified that most of the Terran Space Command believed it was merely a theoretical exercise. "Deploy the fleet," Elena ordered. "Target all transport vessels. Authorization code: Taurus Alpha 71. Across the system, the Ghost Fleet ships shimmered into visibility. Sleek, agile vessels with hull configurations that defied conventional design philosophy. Their sudden appearance sent the Craxian fleet into chaos. Admiral Vorketh stared at his tactical display in disbelief. "Impossible," he whispered. "Where did they come from?" "They were already here, Admiral," his sensor officer replied, mandibles trembling. "Our scanners, they couldn't detect them." "All ships, battle stations," Vorketh commanded. "Target the human vessels." But it was too late. The Ghost Fleet moved with astonishing speed, each ship intercepting a Craxian transport vessel with surgical precision. No weapons were fired. They didn't need to be. Targeted electromagnetic pulses, similar to the demonstration the Defiance had performed, but focused with pinpoint accuracy, disabled the transport's engines while leaving life support systems intact. Within minutes, all 6 transport vessels hung motionless in space, their military escorts equally paralyzed. On the Defiance's bridge, Elena received confirmation from her fleet captains. "All transports disabled, Captain," Chen reported. "Boarding teams are away. Minimal resistance expected given the EMP effects." Elena nodded. Time to end this charade. She opened a channel to the Craxian flagship. Admiral Vorketh's image appeared, his exoskeleton now visibly trembling with rage or fear, perhaps both. "Your deception ends now, Admiral," Elena stated flatly. "Our boarding teams are retrieving our people. Any attempt to interfere will be met with the full measure of our capabilities." "This is an act of war," Vorketh sputtered. "No, Admiral," Elena corrected him. "This is a rescue operation. War would look very different." To emphasize her point, she nodded to Tactical Officer Chen, who activated a secondary system. Throughout the Craxian system, hundreds of small objects, previously dormant and undetectable, activated simultaneously. Quantum resonance mines, positioned weeks ago by automated stealth drones, now revealed themselves on Craxian scanners. Vorketh's expression shifted from anger to horror. The mines were positioned near every major Craxian installation, every defense platform, every strategic asset in the system. "We could have destroyed your infrastructure before you even knew we were here," Elena continued. "We chose not to. Remember that when you report to your High Council." As the Admiral struggled to find a response, Elena received a message through her neural interface. "Captain," she said, allowing a hint of satisfaction to color her voice, "our boarding teams have secured all colonists. 143 survivors." The number hung in the air, 4 shy of the original count. "What happened to the others?" Elena demanded, her voice dangerously quiet. Vorketh's posture deflated slightly. "Research subjects occasionally. Expire during testing procedures." The temperature on the Defiance's bridge seemed to drop several degrees. Elena's expression didn't change, but her eyes burned with a cold fury that made several of her officers instinctively step back. "Admiral," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I want the names of every scientist, every official, every guard who participated in the experimentation on our people." "That is classified information," Vorketh responded, but his voice lacked conviction. Elena leaned forward. "Let me be absolutely clear. The only reason your system isn't experiencing catastrophic infrastructure failure right now is because I am choosing restraint. The names." Now, 20 minutes later, the rescued colonists were being treated in the Defiance's medical bay. Many were malnourished, all showed signs of trauma, but they were alive. They would recover, both physically and, with time, psychologically. Elena stood in the observation room, watching as her medical team worked. Commander Jackson joined her, offering a data tablet. "The information from the Craxians," he said quietly. "All personnel involved in the experimentation program, as requested." Elena took the tablet, scanning the list of names. "Verify it against the testimony of the survivors, once they're stable enough to speak." "Yes, Captain." Jackson hesitated. "What will happen to them?" "The Craxians who were responsible." Elena's expression was unreadable. "That will be determined by proper authorities. But I've made it clear to the Admiral that if justice isn't served through official channels, there are alternatives." The implied threat wasn't lost on Jackson. The Ghost Fleet had demonstrated capabilities that would give any power in the galaxy pause. "The quantum mines?" he asked. "Being deactivated as we speak," Elena confirmed. "We've made our point." She turned away from the medical bay, her mission complete but her thoughts troubled. "The galaxy is changing, Commander. For too long, humanity has been viewed as just another species finding its way among the stars. Today, that perception was corrected." "You think they'll fear us now?" Jackson observed. "Fear isn't the goal," Elena replied. "Respect is. Understanding that humanity will not tolerate aggression against its people. That while we prefer peace, we are very, very capable of war." She looked back at the survivors. "And that we always come for our own." As the Defiance prepared to depart Craxian space, escorted by the now visible Ghost Fleet, messages flashed across the galactic communication networks. Reports of the incident, carefully controlled by both human and Craxian authorities, nevertheless spread rapidly. In council chambers across the galaxy, representatives of various species discussed the implications. The humans, it seemed, had been holding back. Their technology was more advanced than anyone had suspected. Their military capabilities, hidden beneath a veneer of diplomatic focus, were formidable. 2 weeks later, Elena stood before the Terran Defense Council, her formal report delivered and acknowledged. "The Craxian High Council has issued a formal apology," Admiral Chen announced. "They've agreed to substantial reparations for the families of the deceased colonists and have publicly executed 2 high-ranking officials deemed responsible for the operation." Elena nodded. It wasn't enough. Nothing could bring back the 4 who had died, but it was a start. More importantly, the Admiral continued, they'd proposed a comprehensive treaty that would formalize relations between our peoples and establish clear protocols for territorial disputes. They're afraid, another council member observed. They're respectful, Alina corrected. For the first time, they see us as equals, perhaps even as superiors in some regards. Admiral Chen leaned forward. The question now is how we proceed. The Ghost Fleet's existence is no longer a secret. Every species in the galaxy is reassessing their understanding of human capabilities. Elena met his gaze steadily. We proceed as we always have, with diplomacy first, force only when necessary. The difference is they now know the force exists. And if another species tests us, a council member asked. Elena's expression was resolute. Then we remind them, just as we reminded the Craxians, that humanity extends peace from a position of strength, not weakness. As she left the council chambers, Elena's thoughts turned to the stars. Humanity had crossed a threshold. Their place in the galactic community had fundamentally changed. Some would call it a loss of innocence, but Elena knew better. It wasn't innocence they had lost, but naivety. And in its place, they had gained something far more valuable: respect. Across the vastness of space, in the heart of the Craxian Empire, Admiral Vorketh stood before his own council, his career in tatters but his mind clear. We made a grave error, he told them. Not in capturing the humans, though that was foolish, but in our fundamental understanding of their species. He activated a holographic display, showing the Defiance and its Ghost Fleet. We saw their diplomatic nature as weakness, their collaborative approach as lack of strength. We were wrong. The humans have been watching, learning, preparing. They've been at war with themselves for millennia, perfecting the art of conflict while we grew complacent. He looked each council member in the eyes. Make no mistake, the humans could have destroyed us had they wished. Instead, they showed restraint. Remember that when you deal with them in the future. The council chambers fell silent as the implications sank in. The galaxy had changed. The humans had made sure of it. And as the stars continued their eternal dance, a new understanding spread throughout the civilizations scattered among them. Humanity had arrived, not as conquerors, not as subjects, but as equals, perhaps even as leaders. The age of underestimating them was over. The emergency beacon pulsed through the void of space, its quantum signature rippling across the darkness like stones skipped across a pond. In the command center of the Viridian mining colony, Asteria 7, Governor Kilara's crystalline skin flickered with patterns of distress as she watched the holographic display. The Nexus swarm's biomechanical ships darkened the stars around her colony, their chitinous hulls absorbing what little light reached this far corner of space. Status report, she demanded, her translator converting her harmonic tones into standard galactic common. Her chief of security, Commander Vix, projected a tactical overlay onto the main screen. 3 high ships detected, Governor. Conservative estimates suggest over 2,000 drone vessels. Our shield matrix is holding at 60%. But their acid weapons are adapting to our frequency modulations. Kilara's crystalline form dimmed slightly. The Viridian Confederation had always prided itself on technological superiority, their crystalline biology allowing them to interface directly with their advanced systems. But the swarm was different. It learned, it adapted, and it never stopped until its target was completely consumed. The nearest Confederation battle group, she asked, though she already knew the answer. 4 days at maximum jump speed, Vix replied. We have already begun evacuation procedures, but, he hesitated, we cannot evacuate everyone before they breach our defenses. The mining colony housed over 50,000 souls. Civilian ships could carry perhaps 1/10 of that number to safety before the swarm broke through. Kilara had heard stories of what happened to colonies taken by the swarm. No survivors. Ever. A junior communications officer suddenly straightened, her crystalline form brightening with surprise. "Governor, I'm detecting a response to our distress call. It's not Confederation." "Display," Kilara ordered. The holographic screen shifted, showing a text-only response in Galactic Common. "Hold tight. Human warship Ntiomeng. ETA 18 minutes." The command center erupted in confused murmurs. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, barely a century into faster-than-light travel. Their technology was considered primitive by Confederation standards, their ships slow and unwieldy. What could a single human warship possibly do against a swarm fleet? 16 minutes later, they got their answer. The UES Defiant dropped out of quantum space like a shark breaking the surface of a calm sea. Its hull was matte black, absorbing rather than reflecting light, its lines clean and predatory. Unlike the elegant crystalline ships of the Confederation or the organic curves of the swarm, the human vessel was all angles and purpose. On its bridge, Captain Sarah Chen sat forward in her command chair, dark eyes fixed on the tactical display. At 43, she had earned her command through a combination of tactical brilliance and a willingness to push both technology and human limits beyond their breaking point. The Defiant was her ship, the first of its class, and today would be its true testing ground. "Status report," she ordered, her voice calm despite the enormity of what they faced. Her XO, Commander David Rivera, responded immediately. 3 swarm hive ships detected, along with approximately 2,300 drone vessels. Colony shields at 48% and falling. No civilian casualties yet, but they're running out of time. Chen nodded, her mind already racing through possibilities. The Defiant was experimental, equipped with technology that merged human intuition with artificial intelligence in ways no other species had attempted. Some called it reckless. She called it necessary. "All hands, battle stations," she announced. "Initialize AI system." Around the bridge, neural interface nodes activated as her crew linked their minds to the ship's advanced response intelligence array. Unlike the Viridian's purely technological interface or the swarm's biological connection, ARIA was a hybrid, a marriage of human consciousness and machine learning that amplified both. "Colony Asteria 7, this is Captain Chen of the UES Defiant," she broadcast. "We are engaging the enemy. Continue your evacuation. We'll keep them busy." The response came quickly, Governor Kilara's translated voice carrying clear skepticism. "Captain, while we appreciate your assistance, a single vessel cannot hope to." "Watch us," Chen interrupted, allowing herself a small smile. "Weapons, target the nearest hive ship. Show them how humans fight." The Defiant's quantum drive hummed as it accelerated, its revolutionary propulsion system allowing it to move in ways that defied conventional physics. The ship's eye-targeting systems, guided by human intuition through ARIA, calculated firing solutions faster than any organic brain could process. The first shots caught the swarm completely by surprise. The Defiant's main gun fired projectiles accelerated to near-light speed, each round carrying a payload of quantum-entangled particles. When they struck the hive ship's organic hull, the particles destabilized its molecular structure from the inside out. The massive vessel began to break apart, its drone ships suddenly operating with reduced efficiency as their connection to the hive mind weakened. But the swarm was nothing if not adaptive. The remaining ships quickly adjusted their formation, their organic weapons beginning to mutate in response to this new threat. "They're adapting faster than simulated," Rivera reported. "Acid weapons showing quantum properties now. Shields holding, but they're learning our frequency." Chen's neural interface buzzed with tactical options as ARIA processed combat data in real time. "Good," she said, surprising her crew. "Let them adapt. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to change the rules of the game." Execute pattern Delta 7. The Defiant's engines flared as it initiated a maneuver that would have torn any conventional ship apart. The quantum drive allowed it to briefly exist in multiple probable states at once, making it impossible for the swarm's targeting systems to get a lock. As the ship phase shifted through space, its weapons struck from angles that should have been physically impossible. In the colony's command center, Governor Kilara watched in astonishment as a single human ship executed combat maneuvers that violated several laws of physics. "Impossible," she whispered. "Their technology shouldn't be capable of this." Commander Vix's crystalline form pulsed with analytical patterns. "They've merged multiple technological approaches we considered incompatible. The efficiency is remarkable." The battle continued to unfold, with the defiant dancing between swarms of hostile drones. Every time the swarm adapted to one tactic, the human ship switched to another. Conventional weapons gave way to electromagnetic pulses, then to targeted gravity distortions, then to weapons systems the Viridians couldn't even classify. But the swarm was vast, and even with its revolutionary systems, the Defiant couldn't be everywhere at once. As Chen pressed the attack against the second high ship, a group of drones broke through, heading for the colony's weakening shields. "Captain," Governor Kilara's voice crackled through the comm. "Our shields cannot withstand much more. If you cannot, trust us." Chen interrupted again, her hands flying across her console as HFY fed combat data directly into her mind. Humanity survived centuries of warfare by learning one crucial lesson. There's always a way to win. You just have to be willing to try the impossible. She opened a channel to her engineering section. "Lieutenant Kumar, remember that theoretical application of the quantum drive we discussed? The one everyone said would probably blow up the ship." "Yes, Captain," came the response, excitement evident in the young engineer's voice. "Ready to execute on your order." Chen smiled, her eyes fixed on the approaching swarm of hostile drones. Sometimes the best way to win isn't to be the strongest or the most advanced. Sometimes you just have to be crazy enough to try what no one else would dare. She took a deep breath, her mind already calculating the risks. "All hands, brace for pattern Omega. Let's show the galaxy why you should never underestimate human ingenuity." The battle for Asteria 7 was about to enter its final phase, and Captain Sarah Chen was about to demonstrate why humanity's greatest weapon had always been its ability to think outside the box, even if that meant breaking a few laws of physics in the process. "Executing pattern Omega." Captain Chen's words hung in the air for a fraction of a second before the UES Defiant's quantum drive engaged in a way it was never designed to operate. Instead of using the drive for propulsion, Lieutenant Kumar had reconfigured it to create a localized field of quantum uncertainty around the ship. "RIA, calculate probability waves for all drone vessels within range," Chen ordered, her neural interface humming with data. "Execute on my mark." The approaching swarm of hostile drones suddenly found themselves in a region of space where probability itself had become unreliable. Their biomechanical systems, designed to adapt to conventional warfare, couldn't cope with an environment where the laws of physics became mere suggestions. In the colony's command center, Governor Kilara's crystalline form flickered with confusion as her sensors tried to make sense of what they were detecting. Impossible. They're using their quantum drive as a weapon. The energy requirements alone should. "Ma'am." Commander Vix interrupted, his normally steady voice carrying an edge of wonder. "The human ship is. They're using probability itself as a shield." The space around the Defiant had become a maelstrom of quantum possibilities. Drone ships found themselves occupying multiple states simultaneously, their organic processors unable to determine which reality was actual. Some simply ceased to exist as probability collapsed around them. Others fired weapons that struck their own vessels in timelines that suddenly became real. "Warning," Aria's calm voice echoed through the Defiance bridge. "Quantum field stability at 60% and declining. Drive containment will fail in approximately 4 minutes." Commander Rivera turned to his captain, sweat beading on his dark skin. "We can't maintain this field for long. If the drive fails." "We don't need long," Chen interrupted, her fingers dancing across her neural interface controls. We just need to change their pattern recognition enough to create an opening. Humanity didn't survive its own wars by being the strongest. We survived by being adaptable. The remaining high ships, recognizing the threat, began to adjust their attack patterns. Their organic technology started to evolve in real time, attempting to compensate for the quantum distortions. But that was exactly what Chen had been counting on. "They're doing it," she said, a fierce grin spreading across her face. "All power to forward shields. Lieutenant Kumar, prepare to drop the quantum field on my mark. Weapons, target these coordinates the moment we stabilize." The swarm, in its attempt to adapt to the quantum distortions, had reconfigured its biomechanical systems to operate in a probability fluid environment. But in doing so, it had made itself vulnerable to conventional attacks in ways its original configuration would have easily withstood. Now, the quantum field collapsed, and the Defiant's main guns fired simultaneously. The accelerated rounds struck the modified drone ships, their now altered molecular structure unable to withstand the impact. Entire squadrons of hostile craft disintegrated, their adapted defenses worse than useless against old-fashioned kinetic weapons. In the colony's command center, Commander Vix's analytical patterns pulsed rapidly. They forced the swarm to evolve in a specific direction, then exploited the adaptation itself as a weakness. This is not how advanced species wage war. Governor Kilara watched the tactical display with growing fascination. "No, it's not. The humans, they think differently. They don't just use technology. They subvert it. They break it down and rebuild it in ways its creators never imagined." On the Defiance bridge, warning lights flashed as systems trained under the aftermath of the quantum field deployment. "Drive containment stabilizing," Kumar reported from engineering. "But we won't be able to try that trick again. The crystalline matrix is showing signs of microfractures." "We won't need to," Chen replied, studying the tactical display. "Look at their formation. The high ships are pulling back, trying to establish a new control pattern over their drones. They're not used to encountering something they can't simply overwhelm or adapt to." Rivera nodded, understanding dawning on his face. "They're used to fighting species that try to match them technologically. But we're not trying to match them." "Exactly." Chen opened a channel to the colony. "Governor Kilara, I need access to your mining operations industrial fabricators. We're about to show the swarm another human specialty: improvised weapons." The governor's response carried a mix of confusion and intrigue. "Our fabricators, they're designed for processing crystalline ore, not—" "Trust me," Chen interrupted, her mind already racing with possibilities. "Humanity spent centuries finding ways to turn everyday tools into weapons. Your mining equipment might not be meant for combat, but neither was our quantum drive. Sometimes the best weapon is the one your enemy never expects you to use." As the Defiant moved to protect the colony's main fabrication facility, Chen shared her plan through the neural interface. Her crew's reactions ranged from disbelief to excited anticipation. It was crazy, dangerous, and probably violated several laws of physics. In other words, it was exactly the kind of plan that humanity had built its reputation on. The swarm was about to learn another crucial lesson about human warfare. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't the one designed for battle, but the one repurposed from something entirely different. And nobody in the galaxy was better at repurposing technology than the species that had turned their own planet's primitive tools into vehicles for crossing the stars. "Begin fabrication sequence," Chen ordered, her eyes fixed on the regrouping swarm fleet. "Let's show them what happens when you push humans into a corner. We don't just fight back, we rewrite the rules of engagement." The battle for Asteria 7 was entering a new phase, one that would demonstrate why humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons, but their ability to see possibilities where other species saw only limitations. The swarm was about to learn why cornering humans was always a dangerous proposition, because that's when they became most creative. And as Captain Sarah Chen was about to prove, creativity in warfare could be more devastating than any conventional weapon in the galaxy. The industrial fabricators of Asteria 7 hummed with activity, their crystalline matrices reprogrammed to serve a purpose far removed from their original mining functions. Captain Chen stood before the main control interface, her neural link to AI processing calculations faster than any organic brain could manage alone. The Viridians designed these fabricators to process crystalline ore at the molecular level, she explained to Governor Kilara, whose form shifted between patterns of fascination and concern. But with some modifications, we can use that same principle to create something the swarm won't expect. What exactly are you fabricating, Captain? Kilara asked, watching as the machines produced what appeared to be thousands of small crystalline spheres, each no larger than a human fist. Chen picked up one of the completed spheres, its surface catching the light with an almost liquid shimmer. We're taking advantage of your civilization's expertise in crystalline technology and combining it with an old human mining technique called fracking. She smiled. Though we're making some creative adjustments. In orbit above the colony, the swarm had reorganized its forces. The remaining high ship coordinated its drones in new patterns, their biomechanical systems having evolved past their vulnerability to quantum distortions. They were learning, adapting, becoming stronger with each passing moment. Captain, Commander Rivera's voice came through Chen's neural link. Swarm forces are moving into attack position. Whatever you're planning, we need it soon. Chen placed the crystal sphere back among its thousands of identical siblings. Begin deployment sequence. Lieutenant Kumar, status of the modified shield generators. Ready, Captain. Kumar replied from the Defiance engineering section. Though I still think this is completely insane. Noted Lieutenant. Chen's smile widened. But insanity is humanity's specialty. Begin Phase 1. The Defiance cargo holds opened, releasing clouds of the crystalline spheres into space. They spread out in a seemingly random pattern, their surfaces reflecting the light of distant stars. To the swarm's biosensors, they appeared as little more than debris. Mining waste scattered as a primitive attempt at obstruction. Governor Kilara watched the tactical display with growing concern. Captain, the swarm vessels are advancing through the field of crystals. They're not even attempting to avoid them. Perfect, Chen replied. They're doing exactly what I expected. Species that rely on continuous adaptation often forget one crucial detail. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. She opened a channel to her ship. All hands, brace for Phase 2. Kumar, initiate the resonance pulse on my mark. The swarm pressed forward, its drones moving through the cloud of crystals with singular purpose. Their adaptive shields easily deflected the occasional impact from the small spheres, their biological processors dismissing them as inconsequential. That was their first mistake. Mark. The Defiance modified shield generators pulsed, emitting a precisely calibrated frequency that rippled through space. The crystalline spheres, engineered to amplify and redirect this specific wavelength, began to resonate in harmony. What happened next defied the swarm's considerable experience in combat. Each sphere became a focal point for destructive harmonics, creating a web of intersecting energy waves that shattered molecular bonds. The swarm's biomechanical ships, their structures now caught in a three-dimensional grid of resonating crystals, began to break apart from the inside. The crystals, Kilara breathed, her form bright with sudden understanding. You've turned our mining technology into a weapon that attacks at the molecular level. Chen nodded. Humanity learned early in its history that victory doesn't always go to the strongest or most advanced. Sometimes it goes to whoever thinks of using their tools in ways nobody else imagined. But the swarm, true to its nature, was already adapting. The surviving drones began to modify their hull frequencies, attempting to counter the resonance effect. The high ship directed its forces to create safe corridors through the crystal field, its biological processors working furiously to solve this new threat. They're adapting faster than predicted, Rivera reported. crystal resonance effectiveness dropping to 60%, 40%. As expected, Chen replied, her calm demeanor unchanged, which is why this isn't our only trick. Begin Phase 3. The remaining crystals, their resonance now ineffective against the adapted swarm vessels, suddenly began to change. The molecular restructuring technology, borrowed from the mining fabricators, had one final surprise programmed into it. The crystals exploded, not with conventional force, but with precisely calculated quantum cascades that rippled through space-time itself. Each detonation created a microscopic bubble of altered physics, their effects multiplied by the careful positioning of the crystal field. The swarm found itself caught in a web of localized reality distortions. Ships that had adapted to defend against molecular resonance now faced zones where the fundamental forces of the universe behaved unpredictably. Gravity reversed. Strong nuclear forces weakened. The very fabric of space twisted in ways that their adaptive technology couldn't process fast enough. Fascinating, Commander Vix observed from the colony's command center. You used our mining technology not just as a weapon, but as a delivery system for localized physics manipulation. Humans have a saying, Chen replied as she watched the swarm's formation break apart in confusion. Sometimes the best way to win isn't to be better at the game. It's to change the rules entirely. But even as the swarm reeled from this unprecedented attack, the Hive ship was preparing its counterstroke. Its massive form began to pulse with energy, its biological systems reconfiguring in ways that even ARIA's predictive algorithms couldn't anticipate. Captain, Rivera's voice carried a note of urgent warning. The Hive ship, it's doing something we've never seen before. Energy readings are off the charts. Chen's expression hardened as she studied the tactical data flooding through her neural interface. The swarm had been pushed to its limit, and now it was about to reveal why it had earned its reputation as one of the most feared forces in the galaxy. All hands, battle stations, she ordered. Governor Kilara, raise your colony shields to maximum. We're about to find out if humanity's creativity can match the swarm's desperation. The final phase of the battle was about to begin, and with it would come the ultimate test of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to face the impossible and find a way through. As the Hive ship prepared its devastating response, Captain Sarah Chen and her crew stood ready to prove why humanity had survived countless wars that should have destroyed them. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent isn't the strongest or most advanced. It's the one who refuses to accept defeat as an option. The Hive ship's transformation was unlike anything humanity had encountered in its relatively brief time among the stars. Its biomechanical structure flowered open like a deadly lotus, revealing layers of organic weaponry that pulsed with otherworldly energy. The surviving drone ships began to merge with their parent vessel, each connection adding to its growing power. On the Defiance Bridge, Captain Chen watched through both her physical eyes and ARIA's sensor feeds as the enemy evolved into something that defied conventional analysis. The swarm isn't just adapting anymore, Rivera reported, his voice tight. They're completely restructuring their entire combat doctrine. ARIA is giving us a 98% probability that this is some kind of last resort protocol. Makes sense, Chen replied, her mind racing through tactical possibilities. We've forced them so far out of their comfort zone that they're rewriting their own rules. That's usually humanity's trick. She allowed herself a grim smile. Let's show them why that's dangerous. The transformed Hive ship now resembled a massive crystalline spider, its limbs crackling with energy that bent light around it. When it spoke, it broadcast on all frequencies, its message translated into perfect galactic common. Your species is ANANOMENALY, ULACK, the biological perfection of DGT swarm. Your technology is primitive. Your method is DFYPREDICTION. You will be studied, understood, and eliminated. Charming, Chen muttered. Then, louder, Lieutenant Kumar, Status of the quantum drive. Barely holding together, Captain Kumar reported from engineering. The crystalline matrix is showing signs of complete breakdown. One more major stress, and we'll lose it entirely. Chen nodded, as if this was exactly what she wanted to hear. Governor Kilara, I need one more thing from your mining operation. Do you have any antimatter storage facilities? The governor's response was immediate and alarmed. Captain, you cannot be suggesting. Our antimatter storage is for powering the deep core mining operations. The containment fields are industrial grade, not meant for. Perfect, Chen interrupted. That's exactly what I need. Commander Rivera, plot me a course that will take us through the colony's main mining shaft. Maximum precision required. Rivera's eyes widened as he saw the plan forming in their shared tactical display. Captain, that's insane, impossible, guaranteed to get us all killed. Chen's smile was fierce now. Exactly. That's why it's going to work. Humanity didn't become a spacefaring species by playing it safe. The transformed hive ship launched its attack, firing beams of energy that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. Where they struck, matter simply ceased to exist, erased from reality itself. The Defiant's shields, already strained from their earlier battles, began to fail under this impossible assault. All hands, Chen broadcast throughout her ship, what we're about to do violates about a dozen laws of physics and probably several international treaties. But humanity has a proud tradition of doing the impossible when our backs are against the wall. Lieutenant Kumar, initiate Protocol Omega Black. Kumar's voice was steady despite the insanity of what they were about to attempt. Protocol Omega Black initiated. Quantum drive matrix reconfigured for total conversion. It's been an honor, Captain. The Defiant dove towards the colony, its maneuvering thrusters firing with surgical precision as it aligned itself with the massive mining shaft. The hive ship followed, its new form allowing it to predict and counter any normal evasive pattern. But humanity had long since abandoned normal. Governor, Chen called out, on my mark, I need you to drop your containment fields around the antimatter storage. All of them. Simultaneously. Captain. Kilara's voice was almost pleading. The resulting reaction would. Trust us. Chen interrupted one final time. Humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology or our determination. It's our willingness to do what every other species considers impossible. The Defiant plunged into the mining shaft, its hull scraping against crystalline walls as it threaded an impossible needle. Behind it, the transformed hive ship followed, its massive form barely fitting into the shaft as it pursued its prey. Now, several things happened in the space of a few heartbeats. The antimatter containment fields dropped, releasing their deadly cargo into the shaft. The Defiant's failing quantum drive initiated its final sequence, its crystalline matrix shattering in a carefully calculated pattern. The laws of physics took a moment to realize what humanity had just done. And then everything went white. The combination of free antimatter, a detonating quantum drive, and the enclosed space of the mining shaft created what later Viridian scientists would call a localized reality inversion. The hive ship, caught in the effect, found itself trying to exist in a space where the fundamental forces of the universe had been temporarily rewritten by human insanity. For a being that relied on adapting to natural laws, suddenly finding those laws turned inside out was fatal. The Defiant, its quantum drive sacrificed in the attack, shot out of the other end of the mining shaft on pure momentum, its conventional engines firing desperately to stabilize its trajectory. Behind it, the mining shaft collapsed as reality reasserted itself, taking with it the remains of the most advanced swarm vessel ever encountered. In the colony's command center, there was total silence as the sensors tried to make sense of what had just happened. Governor Kilara's crystalline form flickered between patterns of disbelief and awe. You deliberately created a space where physics itself broke down, she finally managed. No species has ever. We never even considered. That's humanity's secret, Chen replied, her voice tired but proud as the Defiant limped back to the colony. "We don't live within the rules. We see them as challenges to overcome. Sometimes that means breaking them entirely." The remaining swarm drones, cut off from their high ship, began to drift aimlessly in space. Without their central intelligence, they were nothing more than hollow shells, a testament to the price of underestimating humanity's capacity for creative destruction. For the record, Rivera said as emergency repair crews swarmed through the Defiant, "That was the craziest thing I've ever seen, and I've served with you for 5 years." Chen smiled, watching as Viridian ships began to secure the area. "Then you'll love what I'm planning for our next mission. Humanity's got a lot more impossible tricks to show the galaxy." Because that was the truth about humans in space. They weren't the strongest, the most advanced, or the most numerous. But they were, without doubt, the species most willing to look at the impossible and say, "Watch this." And that, more than any weapon or technology, was what made humanity a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. 1 week after the Battle of Asteria 7, the Viridian High Council chamber was filled with representatives from a dozen spacefaring species. Their forms, crystalline, energy-based, and biological, all focused on the holographic display showing the battle's final moments. Captain Sarah Chen stood before them, her dress uniform pristine despite her ship's extensive repairs still underway in the colony shipyards. The recording ended with the flash of the reality inversion, and for a moment, the chamber was silent. Then, first speaker Lazara, her crystalline form radiating patterns of deep thought, addressed the assembly. "For centuries, we have viewed humanity as..." She paused, choosing her words carefully, "technologically adolescent. Your ships were considered primitive, your methods unrefined. The Asteria 7 incident has forced us to reconsider many assumptions." Chen stood at ease, her posture relaxed but alert. Humanity learned long ago that true advancement isn't just about creating new technology. It's about thinking differently about the technology you have. A quantum collective representative, their energy form flickering with analytical patterns, spoke next. "You deliberately destroyed your quantum drive to create a weapon. This violates 17 different safety protocols established by the Galactic Concordat." "With respect," Chen replied, a slight smile playing at her lips. "Those protocols were written by species who view technology as something to be mastered and controlled. Humanity views it as something to be explored and reinvented. Sometimes that means breaking it to see what happens." Footage began playing of the Defiant's earlier battle maneuvers, the quantum probability field, the crystalline resonance weapon, the final desperate plunge into the mining shaft. Each display caused ripples of discussion among the assembled representatives. An Arcturian war philosopher, their biomechanical frame humming with interest, leaned forward. "You turned mining equipment into weapons of mass destruction, created localized physics anomalies as tactical advantages, used probability itself as a shield. These are not the actions of a primitive species." "No," Chen agreed. "They're the actions of a species that spent its entire history learning to survive against overwhelming odds. We may not have the most advanced technology, but we understand something that many older species have forgotten. The most powerful weapon isn't the one you have. It's the one you create when you have nothing else left." Governor Kilara, now promoted to sector administrator after her role in the battle, stepped forward. "The swarm has been a threat to civilized space for generations. They adapt to every weapon, counter every strategy. Yet a single human ship, using improvised tactics and repurposed mining equipment, managed to destroy their most advanced high ship. Because we didn't try to beat them at their own game," Chen explained. "The swarm adapts to patterns it can recognize. So we gave it something it couldn't possibly predict: human chaos theory in practice." The chamber erupted in overlapping discussions, various species debating the implications of what they'd witnessed. First speaker Lazora raised her crystalline appendage for silence. "Captain Chen, humanity has demonstrated capabilities that concern many of us. Your species' willingness to ignore established protocols, to weaponize civilian technology, to break fundamental laws of physics. These are traditionally signs of a dangerous race. Chen's expression remained calm. With respect, first speaker, they're signs of a race that refuses to accept limitations. Humanity doesn't break rules for the sake of breaking them. We break them because sometimes the only way forward is to rewrite the book entirely. She gestured to the holographic display, now showing the aftermath of the battle. The swarm attacked a civilian colony. We had a choice: follow established protocols and watch 50,000 people die, or try something crazy and give them a chance to live. Humanity will always choose the second option. The quantum collective representative's energy form pulsed with reluctant admiration. Your methods are unconventional, but the results are undeniable. The swarm has never suffered such a decisive defeat. Which is why, first speaker Lizora announced, the Viridian Confederation is formally proposing a military alliance with Earth. We offer our advanced technology in exchange for humanity's unique perspective on its application. A murmur ran through the chamber. Such an alliance was unprecedented. The Viridians were known for their technological superiority and reluctance to share it. Chen smiled. I think we'd be interested in that arrangement. Though I should warn you, once humans start getting creative with your technology, things might get a little unpredictable. We're counting on it, Killara said. The galaxy is changing. The old ways of thinking are no longer sufficient. Perhaps it's time for all of us to learn how to think a little more human. As the chamber debated the details of the proposed alliance, Chen's neural link buzzed with a message from Earth Command. The Defiance sensors had detected unusual activity in the Carina sector, possibly another swarm incursion. First speaker, Chen said, I look forward to discussing this alliance in detail. But right now, there's another colony that might need humanity's brand of impossible solutions. Lizara's crystalline form flickered with what might have been amusement. Go, Captain. Show the galaxy what humanity can do. We'll have the paperwork ready when you return. As Chen left the chamber, she could hear the continued discussions behind her. Species that had looked down on humanity for decades now debating how to harness the chaos that humans brought to the galaxy. It was, she thought, exactly the kind of impossible situation that humanity excelled at navigating. Because that was the truth that the galaxy was finally beginning to understand. Humanity wasn't just another spacefaring species. They were the ones who looked at the impossible and saw opportunity. The ones who turned mining tools into weapons, civilian technology into military advantages, and certain defeat into improbable victory. They were human, and they were just getting started.